we should just go around the table and get some introductions, because I see about 3 new faces.
That would be
So
great.
I'm John Lamont. I'm the interim chair until the end of the year because our chair left to go to University of Washington and we miss her already. And so let's just go over to Laura. I'm using my screen, so Laura's right over the corner here. Laura, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi there. Good morning. Laura Edmonds, CEO of the North Clackamas Chamber and Business Resource Center.
Great. Armetta?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Armetta Burney. I'm with Clackamas Community College. I am the new Dean of Technology, Applied Science, and Public Services.
Great. Are you going to just sit in, or are you going to be our liaison?
So our VP is not available this morning, so I'm sitting in for him, David Plotkin. And I believe I'm going to share a little bit about our Future Ready grants.
Oh, great. And you're
Okay.
always welcome. We love having the college on board, so thank you. Cindy?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cindy Moore. I'm a senior interim coordinator with Clackamas County, the Office of Economic Development. Great to see some new faces today. Thank you for being here.
Okay, Jody over on my other side here.
Good morning, Jody Bailey, Director of Membership at the Home Builders Association.
Bridget, why don't you give us a quick introduction, and we can do more when we get you speaking.
Hi, all. Bridget Daisy, she, her pronouns, Executive Director of Clackamas Workforce Partnership.
Great. Christina?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christina Fadenreck, she, her. I am a policy advisor at Clackamas County, supporting taking notes on behalf of Commissioner Martha Schrader today.
Who needs no introduction, but go ahead. Karina?
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Good morning, Karina Copeland. I'm with Clackamas County Economic Development Division.
Lynn?
Hi, Lynn Wallace with the Oregon Employment Department. I'm an economist and work mainly in Clackamas County.
Great. William?
William Gifford, a small business owner and one of the founding directors of the Oregon City Business Alliance.
Great. Stacia?
Well, hi, I'm Stacia Hernandez Name. Apologies for not having my camera on. I'm in transit. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and a tribal member, and oversee our Delano Village project in Oregon City.
Okay, Laura, Sarah, who I think you're on now. Yeah, there you go. Sarah?
Good morning, Sarah Ekman. I'm Assistant Director with the Department of Transportation and Development for Clackamas County, and listening in today. Great to see you all.
Oh, maybe not. Shannon, you want to go? We'll go to Shannon. Or not? Shannon, there you go. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Shannon Eilis, and I'm from Westland, a local business owner and chair of the Westland EDC.
Great. Okay, Kimo, you on now?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Kimo Rosa, Chief Lending Officer, Clackamas Federal Credit Union. I am kind of remote today, so I am off camera, but welcome, everyone.
Great. I think we got everybody. And Christina and Armetta, so you get a chance to see kind of the diverse background we have in business and civic affairs. So let's go and jump right back into our presentation, because I don't see Commissioner Savas or Commissioner Schrader, who usually attends. And let's go to Bridget, who is going to update us on Future Ready Oregon and other things. So Bridget, if you want to take it away, it's your show.
Sounds good. Good morning, everyone. I was asked to share both Future Ready and some updates around childcare for all. So I have 2 separate PowerPoints, and I'll spend most of the time on Future Ready, and then can go pretty quickly through childcare for all. And in the midst of Future Ready, I'm gonna ask Armetta to also share a little bit about what's going on at the college, although I will allude to some of that in my presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see that? Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Excellent, thank you. So Future Ready was passed last year, and we are super excited, or I guess this last program year, we're really excited to put that into work. But just a little bit of updates for folks who may be less familiar with Clackamas Workforce Partnership, our role in the workforce development system and in the community. We are a nonprofit 501c3 that serves the Clackamas area. We're one of 9 workforce boards statewide, and we've been in operation since early 2000s. We operate under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is administered by the Department of Labor at the federal level. We invest both federal dollars, state dollars, or foundation funds, private donations, and other grant dollars into the community. We are not a direct service provider. We procure service providers and other direct service supports within the community, and then also help to oversee at the board level the public workforce development system, which is really a key operation of a local workforce development board. Our services include training and employment services, but when we say workforce, we really mean people. And so people need lots of things in order to work and learn in our community. And so we really stand at the intersections of housing, transportation, childcare, food security, so on and so on, because workforce really impacts lots of industries and things in our community. Our oversight is of WorkSource Clackamas, the America's Job Center. There's an American Job Center that serves every community across the country. They're required by law, and it really is an umbrella brand. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We facilitate relationships and convene partners, work across industries and systems, and advocate for policy changes that impact our local workforce and community. This is a pretty busy slide. In general, these are all of the services that are offered through WorkSource Clackamas. We have business and people services, adult and youth. And again, this system is made up of many partners. And so Clackamas Workforce Partnership does not do any of this work in isolation. We really are part of a community-wide effort to ensure that people get what they need in order to move on career paths. But we do offer everything from GED testing through the community college and support, adult education services, youth employment programs, customized skills training, resource referrals to other programs, more recently record expungement, and we continue to add services as we develop new partnerships in our community. So a general overview of Future Ready and what was passed out of the legislature this year. There was a $200 million package passed in full with resounding support from both the representative and Senate side. The $200 million was to boost the public workforce system and ensure that we're moving in the right direction as a state, to address economic inequality and advance equity across the state. I'll talk a little bit about what does it mean to expand and sustain existing programs while also innovating. We recognize that our system needs work and evolution, and so that's going to take all of us to shepherd those changes forward, make sure that we're moving in a direction that fits the 21st century economy. We're expanding culturally and community-specific programs and services. That was a mandate in the legislature. And so there are priority populations that are called out in the Senate bill. There are direct payments and assistive services for individuals, because we know that in order for many people in our community to move on their career pathway, they're going to need some wraparound supports. Because in order to go to a training program, if they don't have childcare or transportation, they're going to need some help in order to make that a reality. I'll talk a little bit about the benefits navigators. That's still a TBD from our state partners. So I'll share what I know, as well as the industry consortia and some of the other programs. So this is the full package of Future Ready, the $200 million. It is paid for by both general fund dollars, and general fund dollars expire at the end of June of 2023, and then ARPA funds. And those ARPA federal funds have a longer shelf life. And so we'll just talk about like how the state is putting both general funds into play and ARPA funds into play. But the overall of the Future Ready is overseen by the Higher Education Coordinating Commission in partnership with several other departments, the Department of Ed, the Bureau of Labor and Industry. I want to say there's another player, but I'm forgetting what they are. But anyway, so the Prosperity 10,000 are the funds that are directly going through the local workforce boards to put into place. So I'll talk more specifics about that. The Workforce Ready grants is 95 million of the 200 million. Those are all competitive. There was recently a procurement of 10 million that was released. They had over $75 million requested. So they're still making decisions. That $10 million is all general fund and has to be spent by the end of June of 2023. They have not released yet the ARPA dollars or those RFPs. The Community College Career Pathways, I'll let Armetta share a little bit more about that. Also credit for prior learning. We'll let Armetta and CCC talk a little bit about that. The industry consortia impacts 3 industries: healthcare, manufacturing, and technology. What the state is doing is wanting to pull together statewide industry partners as well as other public players around the same table to talk about what are we doing as a state. So locally, we have sector strategies that we do both just for Clackamas County as well as with our regional partners, Work Systems and Workforce Southwest Washington. But so much of what's happening around industry, what's true for construction in the Clackamas area is also true as far as, or there's many truths and similarities for construction in Medford or Corvallis or over in the eastern part of the state. And so we really need to make sure that we're learning lessons that can impact statewide decisions and policy. There's a huge accountability effort. I actually serve on one of the subgroups of Future Ready at the state level that's really working about accountability and data. There's a registered apprenticeship component, and then of course youth programs. So what Prosperity 10,000 looks like, and actually I'm going to pause for a second. Are there any questions about the overall of Future Ready? Okay. So how this Prosperity 10,000 is playing out in Clackamas County, we received the funds in May. So we had a quick turnaround to say, what are we going to, or to use those funds and put them into contracts. So, so we both did a procurement with some of the dollars and then also launched some initiatives that we knew were going to be really meaningful for the community and also help us extend some of our sector support. So 3 providers submitted as requests as part of the RFP that we released in May. The Immigrant Refugee Community Organization, which is going to be providing workshops and also culturally specific services and outreach for specific or primarily the Latinx community and Latin community, but certainly others are going to fall into that camp. Children, Family, Community Connections, which is a division of Health, Housing, and Human Services at the Clackamas County level. And they're going to be providing outreach training and support services for adults and laid-off workers with a priority on low income and historically marginalized communities. They're also going to be providing and expanding our, continuing our expungement services through Clean Slate. So we've been piloting that since March. And we've had over 800 applications for expungement services and over 400 records have been expunged, and we've been able to help them move through the process, which is a huge ramp up for Clackamas County in terms of expungement services. So CFCC is going to help us continue that program, and Clackamas Community College to continue what they're doing on our behalf, which is education, training, and retention services with a prioritization for healthcare, manufacturing, and renewable energy. Other places that our dollars are going, again, Clean Slate I mentioned earlier. We're also going to be contracting with the Oregon Technology Association of Oregon Technology Association and Oregon Manufacturing Extension Partnership to help us progress our manufacturing and technology sector strategies. We're moving into a next gen model. I can share more about that at a future date, but we really appreciate this partnership because because they have so many contacts in these fields, and they have a lot of lived experience and expertise that will help Clackamas and the region progress toward meeting the goals that our sectors are establishing. And then we're also using some of the Future Ready funds for childcare for all, and finishing up the research project that we began earlier this year. We still do have some funds, a little over 150,000 that we have not put into contract, and we're still deciding what those funds will be used for. We are leaning toward piloting a program called Engine, which is a English language acquisition program that we want to pilot with private sector and businesses for their existing staff, so that some of their employees can move up on their career paths whilst learning English. And so we're going to pilot with a few businesses, so we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like in our area. And then also expanding incentives and support services for people, because we're going to need more carrots to bring people into workforce training, because people have options right now. Work is a high priority for people, but we need folks to skill up. And so we need to help them recognize that that's an opportunity. Other Future Ready funds in Clackamas County, these are not administered by Clackamas Workforce Partnership. Clackamas Community College, again, Armetta is going to share some information about what's going on at CCC. Portland Youth Builders, Iron Workers, Northwest, Endeavor, and Latino Built all submitted proposals to BOLI, the Bureau of Labor and Industry, to expand apprenticeship programs. They have very specific programs that they requested dollars for, and I can share more information about that via email if there are questions specifically about what they're doing. I believe Latino Build or Endeavor is going to be working specifically with Coffee Creek, but I'm forgetting which one exactly, but we'll get more information on that at a later time. Other opportunities that are going to be available through Clackamas Workforce Partnership that we, again, have not received funding for or any direction from the Higher Education Coordinating Commission include the Benefits Navigator. Oops, sorry about that. The Benefits Navigators program will place benefits navigators in WorkSource or in other community partners across the county. Navigators have become a very popular term and role in systems, both in the social service system as well as other education systems. Because our systems are so complex, we need people to help navigate that complexity. And so a navigator in our community through this system will really serve as that convening body to help to help support somebody who's needing to register or identify eligibility through multiple programs. And we do that through our existing contracts. The Benefits Navigator will be an extension and an expansion of what our career coaches and employment specialists are already doing through the workforce development system. Other statewide funding opportunities that are either in play or that will see dollars come through in the short term because of that ARPA. They'll be releasing more of those ARPA dollars are the Workforce Ready grants. Again, $85 million still remains. They haven't put into contract the $10 million that they just RFP'd for. And so within the next couple of months, we'll see what they want to do with the remaining $85 million. And they'll most likely put that also out for procurement. The 10 million was really focused on capacity building for organizations. The Bureau of Labor and Industry, I believe they put all of their they put most of their dollars out. There's around 3 that's coming later in the early part of the winter. CWP is very interested in expanding what service delivery looks like in Clackamas County and across the region. So we are actively seeking partnerships with organizations that want to apply for those other dollars through BOLI, the Department of Ed, and the Work Ready grants. Our goal is not to apply for those directly CWP, but support other organizations to do that, because really those Work Ready grants were meant to expand services and for things to look different. And so we want to support that intention of the funding. And so we're going to add our support, but our goal is to make sure that it's all coordinated. As new providers are coming into our area, we want to make sure that there's a welcome mat laid out and that they're connected to the rest of the system so that they can leverage other programs and dollars that either we administer or other partners do. And that wraps up my presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to our Meta, and then we can entertain some questions on Future Ready before I start Childcare for All.
Great. Thanks, Bridget. I just have one slide. Can you all see my slide? No?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see it?
Not yet.
Okay. Great.
There
Can
it
you see
is.
now? Wonderful. All right. So Bridget did a really wonderful job of kind of providing an overview of Future Ready. And so what I want to do is just highlight some of the Future Ready funding opportunities that we've received that we're really excited about. So the first one there is career pathways. And so the focus of this particular funding source is to really focus on refining our career pathways, developing new career pathways, and building more of what we call integrated education programs, whereby we are working with our students that are in adult basic education and connecting those students to, let's say, a CTE, a welding program, whereby we have two instructors. One instructor that is really focused on the technical aspect of welding, and then we have an ABE instructor in the classroom as well, really making sure that our students have the supports they need around those basic skills. And so that's been a proven model of success. And so we've done this before, and we're excited to expand this work. So under the Career Pathways Grant, in addition to expanding our existing career pathways, we're looking at building additional partnerships with industry partners for student employment opportunities. One of the things that Bridget talked about was wraparound support services. And so we'll be able to utilize this funding to really make sure we are providing our students with the supports they need. So, you know, we're really great at providing those academic resources. And so we know that our students have so many non-academic needs. And so making sure that we are connecting our students to those resources to help ensure their success is really why those wraparound support services are so critical. So when we have, yes.
Excuse me, does some of that money include salary or
yes.
jobs?
Yes, it does. So I'm going to get to that. So we're hiring 3 staff members. So we're going to be hiring a director who's going to manage the Career Pathways Future Ready funding. And then we're hiring a coordinator that's going to be working with students, providing funding for students. And then we're hiring an admin assistant. And so all of those positions are in the works right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions about career pathways? All right. So I want to talk just a bit about Prosperity 10,000. So we are expanding our workforce development services and training for up to 25 low-income students. And so I'm excited to announce that yesterday we awarded our very first student. And so this student is a young woman who had been out of the workforce for a while. The student has a disability and was interested in returning to complete her medical assistant degree. And so we were excited to fund her, and the student is on her way and has started coursework. So we are on the ground working with students, making sure they have the funding and the resources they need to pursue their academic and career goals. So that's one example of how we're putting that funding to use.
What's the 10,000 mean in the name?
So that would be a good Bridget question.
Yeah, William, when we were originally advocating, there was a Prosperity 1000 proposal a few years ago in the legislature that was really focused on Multnomah County, that Work Systems and Rep. Reardon shepherded forward. And then with the expansion of the Future Ready opportunity, they said, let's move that outside of the Multnomah County area, make that statewide, and attach 10,000 people to it. And we were originally asking for 50 million to support 10,000 people. What ended up being passed was a little over 35 million, and they never lost the 10,000. So I think there's still an expectation that 10,000 people will be served with this chunk of dollars, but it's certainly less than we had anticipated originally. So that's where that comes from.
Thanks.
Oh, I think there's another question.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that
Go
might
ahead,
be
Armada.
Oh,
Cindy,
okay.
sorry.
I see Cindy's hand
Yes.
raised.
Thank you, Armada. Just a question on how the members of the community would be able to tap into, we'll just use the Prosperity 10,000 as an example. So if word is on the street that these funds are available and I'm a student, how do I know where to go and how to ask about these types of resources? Or is it more the reverse, where staff and faculty helps identify recipients that would be best positioned for these funds?
Great.
Yeah, so we are in the process of really coordinating all of our funding resources and developing a plan so that we can make sure students are aware of all of the funding sources that are available. And so our faculty are aware, our staff are aware. So when we encounter students that meet the criteria, then they are kind of routed to the right department to connect them to this particular funding source, as well as other funding sources that we have available. So we do a lot of coordinating and grading of funding.
If I also would add, Clackamas Community College, again, and many other partners make up WorkSource Clackamas. And so all of these resources are shared through that network as an available resource to connect participants with. And that's how we share a lot of information is through both the WorkSource Clackamas, under the WorkSource Clackamas umbrella, as well as through our Workforce Partner Network. So we really work hard through social media and other partners to get the word out that these are available.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to follow up Cindy's question, because I think it's a great one. And I'm going to use the word marketing, but that's not the right word. It's the outreach to our businesses, our students, whatever, on all the programs. I mean, Bridget, your whole thing, I look at the industry consortia, you would be the leader on that, I would assume. And then do you knock on doors, or are you trying to identify with Cindy and company, so-and-so needs help? Or how do you market or get the word out that this new great new stuff is happening?
Yeah,
for both of you.
The industry consortia is actually a statewide group. So the HEC and the Higher Education Coordinating Commission and the State Workforce Talent and Development Board will be convening the industry consortia of those three industries. We continue in our local area with our regional partners. We have 5 identified sector strategies that we're both investing and prioritizing with our existing menu of dollars and services, manufacturing, construction, technology, healthcare, and early care and education. So we'll continue to focus on that locally and regionally, but at the state level, they're going to be pulling those industry consortia together, which I imagine local areas will be partnering with those industry consortia, because those convenings cannot happen in a vacuum. Whatever the state decides, they'll have to be figured out programmatically and have support from local areas. So we'll be in good partnership with the state as they pull those together.
And so if I got this right, again, found out Cindy's point is the breaking it down to an actual business in Clackamas County, Acme Widgets or whatever, they might not be in the state level discussion as an overall sector, but when they have a need, they would either come to Clackamas County Economic Development or you, right? Or Armetta to say, hey, we need some help with this and we're in this sector and you could plug them in. Is that correct?
WorkSource, yes.
Yeah.
The idea of an America's Job Center and WorkSource is that there is no wrong door. So whether they come through the college, which is a WorkSource representative, whether they come through the employment department, which is a WorkSource representative, whether they come through the Workforce Board, Job Corps, et cetera, we are all meant to be a no wrong door in the system. And so however they find their way to us, the idea is that anyone who represents the college or ACDev or the board or one of our state or community or public partners, they're wearing the hat of their programs, but also the rest of the system. And those referrals are meant to happen through our coordinated business services team.
Yeah, I think
those referrals and connections are critical in this work because we don't want to lose any potential student or community member who's interested in advancement. So making sure we're connected and communicating and that we're aware of what everyone else is doing so that we can make the right referral and support our students in getting connected is a critical component of all of this work.
William just sent us a note saying no wrong door. What a great term. I agree. That's great, William. And Bridget, yeah, because we have a lot of different places, but we just got to make sure that they don't get lost in the cracks. So that's great. Okay, should we keep moving along? Armetta, you want to keep going down through your list?
Laura has her hand up.
Oh, Laura, sorry.
I apologize.
Sorry. Laura, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm just listening, waiting patiently. Hey, Armada, this is awesome information. I have a question for you. So you're mentioning the career pathways, that the promotion of this particular program hasn't really gone public yet. How did you guys, you said you already though helped one young lady with her, right? So how
Prosperity 10,000.
Okay, for Prosperity 10,000, how was she selected then? And was she kind of like a trial run for you guys to see?
No, the student wasn't a trial run. We recently just received the funding.
Okay.
And so the student came to us and the student met our eligibility requirements, the required eligibility requirements. And so, you know, the student received the funding due to their eligibility.
I would also say, Armetta, to add to Armetta's point, the workforce department at the college has been delivering workforce development services for many years now. And so this really is an expansion to their existing services because they hold several pots of dollars that we oversee through National Dislocated Worker grants, WIOA formula funds, other competitive dollars. So this is one of many in their repertoire that they're able to say, like, as somebody comes in and they assess and they connect with an individual, they determine, they help determine like, oh, you would qualify for this pot of dollars or this pot of dollars or this partner. And so they help to coordinate like which flavor of money makes the most sense for that participant.
And maybe several flavors of money, right? Just braiding all of those sources together. So the student just knows that they're funded. They may not know all of the funding sources that's being used to make sure their needs are met. But it's our responsibility to make sure that we're doing that for the student. Does that make sense? All right, so just a couple of more. Credit for prior learning. So credit for prior learning, we're really excited about this opportunity because one of our focus areas is really identifying adults in our community that are looking to advance. And so we want to make sure that any work that they've done in the past that align with a degree program that they're pursuing, that we develop a system whereby we can provide that student with credit for anything that they've done in the past that may be applicable to their degree. So we're looking at assessing what we currently have are refining our credit for prior learning processes and expanding that to support our students. And so does anyone have any questions about credit for prior learning? It's a fantastic opportunity to help advance our students in reaching their goals and objectives. And
Also include veterans as well.
William?
absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, Armetta Williams got a question.
Oh,
Armetta,
okay.
yesterday, Dr. Tim Cook presented to the Oregon City Business Alliance and a really amazing presentation on the future of Clackamas Community College. That'll be recorded and available on the OCBA website soon. But one of the facts that pointed out was the percentage of students that are over the age of 30.
That's right.
So a lot of people think of college kids, but there's a lot of adults.
That's
and so
right.
I'm imagining this credit for prior learning is really targeting those older students.
Absolutely. And so those we call those our non-traditional students. And so you're exactly right. This credit for prior learning opportunity is really going to benefit that student population. And it's an on-ramp for them. And so we're excited to expand this opportunity for that population specifically.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Lynn's got a question. Lynn Wallace.
Yes,
Hi, Lynn.
really quick. I hope it's not too much in the weeds, but I was asked this a few weeks ago. As far as credit for prior learning, do the students need to be tested out on this? Do they need to take an exam or whatever?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we're going to use this funding is to partner with faculty to assess their programs to develop their means for assessing credit for prior learning. So it could be through testing, it could be through other avenues. And so it could also be department and program specific. So there's not one answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bridget talked about our Workforce Ready grants. I'll just mention really briefly, one of the projects that we are working on under that Workforce Ready grant umbrella is developing a hybrid phlebotomy program. And so a student will be able to come in and start their phlebotomy career within, I think, 14 credits is what that career pathway is going to be. So we're working on that right now. And we're confident that we're going to receive approval for that funding. And then finally, registered apprenticeships, we are going to apply to develop a pre-apprenticeship program. And so we've had several meetings already with the Wilsonville Westland School District. They're very excited to move this forward. And so more to come on that. That grant is due, I believe, December 6th. And so we're just in the process of developing we're formulating the ideas right now and look forward to submitting a grant to develop that pre-apprenticeship program.
You know, when you say pre-apprenticeship, is this the high school link?
Yes.
then?
Yes.
And we talked, you weren't in on the meeting, but two meetings ago, we talked about some of the lack of, technical training, vocational training in the high schools. And the House of Speed up in Wilsonville or down in Wilsonville had that wonderful automotive training program, and then it went out. So I think you're filling the void, if I got this right, with some links for students that want to move to a different career path. Okay, that's great.
So yes, more to come on that.
Yeah, good.
All right, are there any questions?
Oh, anybody else? Okay, well, thank you.
Shannon has her hand up.
Oh, Shannon, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, no, it was just more of a comment. Thank you, Armetta. I used to work at a community college, and so these programs are so incredibly important. So thank you for sharing about them. Are there any boards or any way for community members to be part of this process?
So I'm going to say yes. I would have to think about the how. I know that there are opportunities. One of the things we do have are advisory boards. So I would imagine that we would be developing a pre-apprenticeship advisory board. That'd be one way that industry partners or community members could be involved. And I'd be happy to explore that more and share more about that later, if that works for you.
I think that if you have those opportunities and you want to run them through the EDC and through Cindy and company, that would be great, because then we can
Wonderful.
either find our members or members that know members. So
Wonderful.
it'd be great. And Bridget knows this because she's the umbrella that pulls a lot of these things together. So yeah.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. William, you want to go ahead and ask? We got time. Go ahead. I just caught the chat room thing for a minute.
Oh, it's not a question. It was a private aside to you.
Oh, okay.
When people raise their hands, they show on your screen in the upper left-hand corner.
Right. Yep. Cindy.
Well, Shannon teed me up nicely. I just wanted to thank Armada and Bridget and just offer on behalf of the Office of Economic Development our continuous support and promoting these opportunities. And you have some amazing members on the EDC this morning that are very well connected in the community. So I would just encourage the EDC members as well. If you hear of either individuals or organizations who are looking to connect, to keep this in mind. And I love this, no wrong door approach. So
right.
Just a reminder that we can all champion each other. And this has just been such great information. And I appreciate the way it was laid out, because it made it very simple to get through. And we will also share out the slide deck as well, so that you all have the quick reference. So thank you very much.
Great. Okay, and welcome Tracy Moreland, and welcome Lynn Wallace to the group. And Kimberly, I think, is on. I'm not sure when she got on, but let's go into the next part, which is one of our favorite subjects for the last 2 years, and that is the child care issue with Bridget and anybody else that wants to get in on that.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen one more time. Well, actually, before I do that, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what got us here, which isn't going to be a surprise to anyone, so I can move through that pretty quickly, and where we're at now and as we plan forward. As we talk about childcare, just remember we're playing the long game here. There are no easy solutions to solving this very complex, weighty issue that is childcare. And so as we explore what childcare for all means for Clackamas County, and other programs are starting up, and there are great conversations happening around the state, know that this is a moving target. It's dynamic, and what was true in the fall is no longer true. And so we're in the midst of learning, like many other people across our communities. So childcare for all was launched in October of 2021. And when we started exploring childcare, we started several years ago. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we saw through data and labor market intelligence and other like anecdotal stories that really the pandemic was most felt by women, and more specifically women of color. And as people, women, families are trying to right size or get back into the workforce or upskill or move on their career paths, childcare is a huge prohibitor of that. I've heard from several people that they've had to leave the workforce, downsize or reduce their hours of work. Many people that we know, even on this call, have left so that they can care for their grandchildren because it's not affordable. We don't have enough slots. There's so many issues related to this. And so the Child Care for All Task Force was really designed and created to elevate this issue and to do this work together, because I certainly am not an expert of this industry. And there's so many good ideas that exist within our community on this call. And for people that are just trying to get by, we need that lived experience to help design a system that actually works. So what we've seen is the impacts of burnout and mental health on women, the workforce, other people in our community. That's holding people back. And childcare really stands at the intersections of many other industries. It's the horizontal that serves all other industries. I know some folks may not think that when we think construction, we think early care and education, but I will tell you that many contractors and construction companies are thinking really actively about childcare services for their employees or their future workforce, because they have goals around bringing more people of color and women into the field. And so, but that is true of many, many other industries. So we know that there's challenges and opportunities that we need to explore together. And any dollar that we invest today will pay off in the future. So I'll talk a little bit about our ROI and what we can expect. But just to, this is, we've done presentations on childcare before, but the entire state is a childcare desert. And the term childcare desert is a nationally used term that for every one slot available, there are no less than 3 children that are vying for that slot or that would be eligible for it. We're beyond a desert for many of our populations. Preschool is actually not our #1. We actually are closer to not being in a desert for preschool age children or 3 and 4-year-olds, where there's 1 in 4. 1 slot for every 4 children. But for infant and toddler care, it's as high as 1 in 8 or 1 in 12 in some of our communities. And then after school and summer programs are as dire of need. And so we know that there's a tremendous need for not just preschool age children, but from age 6 weeks all the way through age 12 when we think about childcare. And so a big goal for Clackamas County can or should be, how do we get ourselves out of a childcare desert for all of those demographics? And I'll talk a little bit about the numbers. We've lost so many slots in the last 2 years as a result of the pandemic. We had 1,800 family childcare slots. Now we have 1,500 as of within the last several months. Every slot that we lose is a travesty for our community members, because again, if they can't find childcare, they're going to have to back out of the workforce. Right now, 16% of children have access to viable quality childcare through licensed care. And one of the focuses of the Child Care for All Task Force is to focus on licensed care, because it is the easiest for us to understand, quantify, keep track of. Anything that's not licensed, we have no way of tracking that information. So as individuals or families they might have an unlicensed care where they're taking care of a few neighborhood children, and maybe they want to expand and actually become a licensed. This conversation is really how do we help support small businesses to grow in childcare and early care and education programs, or new ones or existing programs expand. And we know that this is an issue that people believe in. On the right side, we know that over 50%, 60% of Americans believe that investing in children is a smart solution for our economy. We've had a couple of presentations with city councils, and a couple of city councilors have said, my children are grown. I had issues and stressed out about this when I was younger, or when I was raising my children. I can't believe it hasn't been solved yet. And I have the same, I think the same things, why haven't we been able to figure this out? And for some of it is how we prioritize women in the workforce, and how we make the workforce more amenable to women and in work. But in October of 21, as we were launching the task force, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners hosted a town hall where over 60 community members participated and really shared their experience as a service provider, as a parent, as a grandparent, as a worker in this community, and really demonstrated that this is a need that is impacting people at a really personal level. It's a complex issue. It's not affordable. We need more quality. We need it to be accessible. We need there to be more of it. And we need it to be equitable. And I'll talk a little bit about the wages and what's holding us back. So that is why we launched Child Care for All. Our primary goals, again, were to elevate this issue with more communities, municipalities, businesses, other partners to say if doing nothing is not an option. We absolutely have to start to solve this problem, but in a way that works for a 21st century economy. So what worked in the 20th century may not work now. And so we need to explore what options look like and where those best practices are happening. We've created some committees. We've been doing this research study. We are told that we will be receiving the report by this Friday. This just shows that we have over 64,000 children in Clackamas County that fall into those categories of age 6 weeks to age 12. And so if we were to get ourselves out of the childcare desert, we would need to add no less than 11,000 more slots in the Clackamas area. And that would just get us out of the desert, which would mean that we'd be serving a third of our residents who need childcare or who may need childcare. Our process began, so this was an aspirational plan. We had hoped to get through round 3 by now. That did not happen. So we're actually more in the round 2 phase. We're finishing the research study. We'll again have that report hopefully by Friday. We'll review it at the steering committee level, and then we'll be releasing it out to the rest of the task force and community to react to it, to build on the recommendations, and to recognize that there's not a silver bullet to this, and that there's gonna need to be a lot of work on facilities, on workforce, on policy and program. All of those things have to be done simultaneously, because when you start to move one area or focus on one area, the impacts in other areas start to become exacerbated. This is just a small sampling of organizations and communities that participated in the task force. Clackamas Community College, Clackamas County, City of Estacada, the Clackamas County Children's Commission. We've recently engaged PGE in supporting. So it really is a public-private partnership that we're pulling together. These are the 4 work groups: finance and strategy, infrastructure, program policy, and workforce. This is the dynamic that we have to solve for in all of these areas. You'll see at this next slide that the second you start talking about infrastructure, that impacts finance, that impacts policy, and policy reform that may need to be asked. So really these things are so interconnected that we need to be working on all of these areas at the same time. Earlier, I mentioned how it's a challenging industry. The average childcare worker in our region is making $17.50. For one household with one child, they need no less than $72,000 to thrive in our community. A childcare worker can't even afford their own services in order to work in our community. So we're really looking at, like, how do we solve this so that we expand living wage jobs or livable jobs and benefits for people who work in this industry. And and the studies that we researched, it's 1 in 6. I've seen as high as 1 in 12. For every dollar invested in childcare and early care and education, we see a $6 to $12 return on investment. And when we say return on investment, what that looks like is both current state and future state. Children who receive early care and education are less likely to need really extensive and expensive special education services. We're more likely to see children literate by 3rd and 6th grade, which is important for high school completion and lifelong success. It'll foster greater labor force participation rate. Again, we'll see those impacts 20 years down the road, because if we invest in children today, that's going to pay off in the future for sure. But even today, we'd see more parents being able to go back to work and to continue on a career path if they didn't have to stress out about work. And so the list goes on about how the benefits of childcare and taking care of children today pays off in our community. So we are really looking for increasing more partnership, good questions, conversation, getting more audiences to talk about this issue. And then we have a whole slate of activities that we've been working on and the Early Learning Hub and the Education Service District and the college. Like, for example, the Clackamas Community College their early learning program expanded to offer a full 2-year program in Spanish. That's the first of its kind in the state. That will help that final goal, but we need more of that. We need more innovation connected to this industry. So I'm gonna stop talking and see what questions or comments that people have about where we're at in the process and where we see ourselves going.
First question would be and Bridget, it's going to be hard because the statistics are tough in this day and age with childcare, as you said. How is Clackamas County as far as how many we lost during the pandemic as far as providers, nonprofits and profits? Is there any ballpark on that?
We've lost over 10% of our slots. Some more have come back online. Like in the midst of it, it was over 13% that we lost, but now we're more around 10% because we've been able to add funds or add slots. And certainly Preschool Promise and OPK and other programs at the Early Learning Division overseas, they're adding slots. I think Clackamas is going to see over 100 more slots through those dollars that we didn't have in last year or in years prior. So by the state taking a more active role in investing in subsidized care, we're starting to see some of that impact and numbers increasing, but it's still falling quite short.
So Bridget, and I think part of what John was asking is not even just the number of slots. Do we know how many childcare providers actually shut down?
Yeah, that's right.
Schools and daycares.
Yeah,
because then the question is, and that's some data that should already be known. And then, but the question is that if they're shut down, there's money out there to fund this. Why can't we fund to reopen the ones that have closed? Because out there somewhere are these people and these experts that already know how to manage the program. They just need the funding because they lost everything, right? So I guess the question is that can we get some very specific direct grants that will allow them to reopen and get back up to speed so that we can help solve part of this problem by reopening those businesses, is the question.
We can get the numbers of how many facilities shut down, and some of them have already come back online. So we'll get that, because again, that can be a bit of a moving target, but we'll get that information for you. And I would say, as far as some have left the industry and have no interest in coming back to it because the problem hasn't been solved. They know if they come back to it, it's not going to be sustainable in the long term for them, or they're not going to be able to make a certain amount. Like, for example, we work with a provider in a rural community, and she makes as much as, or a little more than that slide that said that $17 an hour or 36,000, and she's the business owner and she has part-time staff, and she goes, I can do this because I have a partner that works and covers our healthcare, but not everyone can do that. So I agree with you that there is that expertise that exists. So we want to help those individuals that are interested in continuing, and we have some folks that are going to be like, I opt out. I don't want to do this anymore. But we also have maybe as many individuals or folks that want to start their own business. And so how do we capture that information and work with partners like the Business Recovery Center? As you have, you might have somebody coming in that's talking with you about like, hey, I want to expand a business, or I want to start a business. What does that look like for us as a system of partners to help support them to get there? So I love your idea of like identifying where those grant dollars are to help businesses either start or grow.
Lynn, go ahead.
Yes, well, first of all, it's very difficult to try to find, even with our records, to find businesses that have shut down. I mean, there's a lot of caveats to that. And yeah, because we're asked that a lot, and it is a headache to try to figure that out. But I'm just wondering, I thought that Oregon City had kind of a test here. They were supporting one of the child care centers in Oregon City, and I thought they were part of your task force.
Oh yes, Oregon City is absolutely part of our task force.
And how did that, do you know anything about that as far as the success rate? I think it was one child care center that they were focusing on and giving subsidies to.
Yeah, there was, they've actually been providing subsidies for many of their childcare providers in Oregon City, but Oregon City did help to attract Mary's Little Lambs. There was an investor that is helping to set up Mary's Little Lambs in other parts of the region. And so through partnership with Oregon City and the task force and other partners like Child Care Resource and Referral and Early Learning Hub, we were able to secure that investor, help them identify a spot. And so that brought, I believe, 60 slots to the Oregon City area, which is amazing. And like, we should celebrate every new slot and every new business that gets to expand or grow. And as soon as we celebrate, we stop and we try to and then we need to add more. So yeah, Oregon City's been a great partner, and they're one of the only municipalities that identified childcare and workforce with ARPA funds and as a priority goal.
I've got a question for Armetta, following up what Laura and I were talking about. Do you know off the top of your head, does the college have any programs to prep an entrepreneur that wants to get into childcare? If they're not stopped because of the pandemic and they know what they're doing, but they have the interest and desire, but they don't know what they're doing, is there any training yet available for that?
So we absolutely have a fantastic ECE program. And we're offering that program in Spanish as well as English. And so it's been a great pathway that we've developed, and we have seen a significant amount of interest of our community members pursuing this degree pathway, especially considering the fact that we have removed that language barrier and we're offering it in Spanish.
One area that we'd also like to trial here that other regions across the state and country have explored. So a small business development center in, I think on the coastal range was partnering with the Early Learning Hub and other partners, the Workforce Board, to expand business. Like, what does it mean to start your own business? Because you might be an expert of children and want to teach, but really like managing the business and the business side of things needs some support. So I think we would love to trial that and bring that concept to the Clackamas area, whether it's the Small Business Development Center or other entrepreneurship programs that can really help to rally around those providers and say, what does it mean for you to also start a business and manage the back end? I'll also say that I think it's the Ford Family Foundation or Oregon Community Foundation, and I'm forgetting which foundation, but they invested in I can't remember what it's called, but it's an entity that really helps the back end. So like HR, payroll, policies, that if there can be partnered or like there's a co-investment of providers with a back end entity, that can also create some cost savings so that people can focus on the teaching while somebody else manages the books and takes care of some of those other details that I think can be pretty onerous for an early care teacher or child care provider. So we'd love to bring that to Clackamas County area too. So there's lots of pilots and ideas that we can bring, but all of that takes coordination and support from other community partners to say, hey, what's your piece in helping to deliver this information, workshop this with the providers. We've also been reached out by AFSCME, which is a labor union that represents family care providers across the state. They'd like WorkSource to and us to do a workshop for providers across the state saying, what are WorkSource services? Because I mean, people on this call are still learning about what WorkSource services are. So how can we expect people who are trying to take care of children every day from 6 in the morning till 6 at night to really understand what these resources are? And so we're going to put a workshop together to help them tap into the resources that exist within WorkSource. So those are just a few ideas of like, how do we make sure that these businesses have what they need so that they can thrive and that they can do the work that we need them to do.
I think that's the key. I think that's very interesting to me. And Cindy, I'm thinking the EDC down the road could help with shaping some sort of a model, test pilot thing, whatever. because I've run into people with the childcare thing where it's a three for the interest in the child, even if they don't have a teaching degree or a background, the business and how to run a business, whether you're an entrepreneur on anything, and then how do you deal with childcare regulations and rules, you know, the outdoor space, the so many kids, all that stuff. So I think, you know, where Laura was going, if we can either get the ones that have been in it back in it, it's easier, or newbies that said, hey, I want to try this. How do we help them and nurture them? You know, that's a big interest, I think, for us. Because, you know, Bridget, you brought this up when I was chair in 2020, and it's lit a fire. More and more people talk to me about it, and I think it's such a need. And I think we could do some good leading stuff with our existing entities. So any other questions?
Christina's hands up.
Oh, Christina, go ahead.
Thank
Up
you.
right.
I have a question about Bridget. Thank you. I think you said there was the most demand or largest gap for slots in infant and after school summer care. And I was wondering for the after school summer care, if that was school district providers or business providers, a mix of both, or where the biggest need, if you're able to identify what the biggest need was. And in terms of funding is what I'm thinking, and who the partners are that have been involved in the task force, and then maybe the next phase.
Yeah, we've had some school districts participating, Estacada, Milwaukee, or North Clackamas. And what I would say to your question, there's several components and roles that can be made up. School districts are absolutely one, because they have facilities that aren't being utilized after the school hours, or maybe possibly during the summer. But most all of those would need to be staffed. Oftentimes school districts won't staff it on their own. Some programs they might staff on their own through teachers or staff through the school district, but often they'll create a partnership with a nonprofit or another organization to deliver those after school programs, like the Y, or and of course, all of the names escape me, but there's lots of programs like that. And so we need to enhance that. But most of the school districts would tell you, and all of the nonprofits would tell you that some of it's cost prohibitive. Like one of our school districts, they're saying if we can hire one person, we'll add 15 more slots onto our roles. But if they can't find the people, then they can't add the slots. And then we have some school districts that want to support, but again, they need that funding in order to make that a reality. And then we need to support the nonprofits and connect the dots. So we partner with like Oregon After School Network, because they have a whole membership of nonprofits and organizations that are doing summer care camps, after school programs. And so we need to, again, it's really about like, how do we keep connecting the dots so that if we know there's a gap in a community, like let's say Estacada, how are we supporting the school district, the community partners, the nonprofits, and the businesses know that all of that investment could help them attract more workers and support. And also some of our school districts have dropped to 4 days, like Estacada School District dropped to 4 days instead of 5. That's a burden for family to try to make up that extra day. And so if we start to see more policies like that, we're putting more challenges on our families and households. I have some other ideas, but I'm going to stop because I saw Armetta's hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to mention really quickly, and all of you may know this already, but we have a very robust small business development center at Clackamas Community College. And so that's a great avenue for community members who are interested in starting a business to learn the ins and outs of doing so through our Small Business Development Center. It's a non-credit program, and you know, we offer that program specific courses completely in Spanish as well. So we're doing
Richard, if I got you right, if I'm hearing this right, that not all schools themselves, school districts, are picking up the before and after school hours. My school, or my daughter's school, they call it Champions program. So they give extra hours in the morning and then after school until the parent gets home. And talk about the 2 women that were coordinating. They're like miracle workers. They're there like from 6:30 till 6 at night. And if it's not just the preschool kids, it's these kids in school, then all of a sudden they're done at 2 or 3 or 4 and they're stuck. Where do they go? So if I hear you right, I mean, only a few, some are doing it, not all of them are doing it. And,
Yeah, well,
and
and many of them might be doing it, but they don't have enough slots. Like one of my staff members applied to have 5 days of after school care for this year, and she was offered 1. She's like, what am I going to do with 1 day? Right? And she's like, that's great, but like I have these other 4 days that I need care. So it's hard decisions and stressful for parents to have to figure that out. So I think it becomes like understanding what each school district is offering, where do they want to expand, where do they see the opportunity, what partnerships do they need in order to expand. So again, that all takes coordination and like connectivity. And so that's what the task force seeks to do, is to bring some of those conversations to light and make those connections earlier on. That's what our role at the workforce board level is to convene and coordinate, and then, you know, let our partners do what they do best.
Great. Questions anymore? Well, you know, this is a great subject for us, and our meta too. If any of your advisory boards ever want to run something by us before you send it up the next chain to the state, please, the door's always open here. So please do that. And thank you for coming. You're more than welcome. And we learned a lot today. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We're just about ready to wrap up. Cindy, do we have anything else economic development wise we want to talk about before we put a bow on this one?
Thank you for the opportunity. Again, thank you so much to Armetta and Bridget, and what a wonderful discussion this morning. Appreciate all of your contributions. I think the only thing is just a reminder that we have one more meeting this year for the EDC. That's our October meeting. And also a reminder that we are in full-on recruitment mode for members of the EDC, as we have some slots coming up available. So Karina will be sending out the open recruitment information. So please, within your networks, if you know of anybody who's interested, there's a lot of great activity in the wind right now that the EDC can participate and lend your professional contributions to. So just a reminder that if you hear of anybody who's interested, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to talk to them about participating.
And I would just add quickly, we'll add in the note, the reminder note from Karina, the sectors that we're especially looking for. As you know, we changed the bylaws together with everybody on the commission, and anybody we could find to fill those slots to just make it a more robust commission, that would be great. But we'll let you know those subsectors again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all. Have a good rest of the week. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah.